Well, that was awesome as always. So I had this starting thing, but I want to tell you a story that happened to me this morning that's, I think, really cute. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. So my wife and I were sitting on the back porch. I was already dressed. We were getting ready to go and come, and my daughter lost power last night. Their power pole snapped in half because of the winds and stuff. And so they stayed in the hotel room last night, and she has to do some homework, and so we were trying to decide if they were going to come over while we were here or if they're going to wait until we get back, that sort of stuff. And we were talking, and my granddaughter, who's 4, almost 5, was laying next to her. And she, of course, calls me Nad, and she leaned over and whispered in my daughter's ear. We couldn't hear, and so I said, Lexi, what did Lacey say? What did my granddaughter say? And she said, she wants you to tell God that she has the best family ever. Aww. And to thank him. And so I just was like, okay, that made my day. That was awesome. That was awesome. Now on to the regular show. Am I a conductor of peace? A few moments ago, we settled into that stillness. Then that music, wonderful music that was perfectly imperfect, as Shara said it would be, carried us forward. That movement matters because peace is not only something we contemplate, it's something that we step into together. I've heard it said that the purpose of a spiritual leader is to comfort the afflicted and to afflict the comforted. If that is true, then I hope that I will achieve both to each and every one of you today. Because comfort without challenge becomes complicity, and challenge without compassion becomes cruelty. I feel that spiritual truth lives in the tension between those two things. Each generation needs leaders, but more than leaders, every generation needs conductors. People who know how to listen, how to hold complexity, and how to bring diverse voices into something that resembles harmony. Amen. A conductor doesn't make sound. A conductor does not dominate the orchestra. The conductor listens, interprets, and helps each voice find its place. Unity teaches a truth that is simple but not easy. There's one presence and one power moving through all of life. If that is true, then peace is not something we impose on something or somebody. Peace is something that we conduct. Peace is not silence. Peace is not neutrality in the face of harm. Peace is not pretending that conflict doesn't exist. Peace is a practice. Peace is relational. Peace is what love looks like when it refuses to abandon responsibility on the whole. The world already has plenty of people who want to control the music. What the world lacks are people willing to listen deeply enough to shape the harmony, even when listening reveals discomfort, injustice, and dissidence. Each of us is already conducting something. Our tone, our choice, our silence, and our attention shape the sound of the spaces we inhabit. The question is not whether we influence the music, but whether we are doing so consciously or simply following the loudest rhythm in the room. There's an inner conductor within each of us. That inner conductor decides which voices we amplify and which we ignore. The ego conducts chaos. Fear conducts division. Love, trained by awareness, conducts peace. But love that refuses to listen is not love, it is preference dressed up as virtue. Unity does not ask us to eliminate ambition. It asks us to refine it. Leadership rooted in the ego seeks dominance. Leadership rooted in an awareness seeks coordination. The mature conductor knows when to bring voices forward and when to quiet others and when silence is sacred. And when silence becomes complicity. When we hold separation in mind, the music fragments. When we hold oneness in the mind, harmony becomes possible. But harmony is not the sameness. It is difference held together with care. Many of you may not recognize the word Pashtunwali, but you have encountered it. I've encountered it personally. Some of you may have encountered it by going to a movie in 2013 named Lone Survivor. It was a movie that starred that 90s teen heartthrob Mark Wahlberg. Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch.
Yeah, that's right.
It was about a soldier or a group of soldiers that were in Afghanistan that were fighting the Taliban. And one soldier survived. He happens to be from Houston here, and his brother is actually some of y'all's representative, Marcus Luttrell. Excuse me. He's injured, but he's found by a group of villagers, Pashtun villagers, who protect him from the Taliban, who come to their village and say, "Give us that American." And they say, "No, we're not going to do that." They know that protecting him puts their lives and their villagers' lives, so other villagers' lives at stake. But turning him away and giving him to the Taliban would keep them safe. But they chose to practice Pashtunwali. They chose not because he belongs to them or he agrees or they agree with him or looks like him, but because it's their moral code. That code is an ancient ethical system that functions like a shared moral code. It teaches radical hospitality, sanctuary for those who seek refuge, honor as responsibility rather than dominance, and justice meant to restore dignity rather to indulge cruelty. What we see in that story is not individual heroism. It is a moral coordination, a community conducting courage together, refusing to let fear write that final measure of their song. Unity recognizes this immediately. When people recognize the divine in one another, behavior changes. Hospitality becomes reverence. Protection becomes duty. Justice becomes healing. And peace becomes the collective. There's a teaching deeply woven in the Christian tradition that when we shelter the foreigner, feed the hungry, and protect the vulnerable, we're responding to something sacred. Notice it's not asked first, what's their belief, what's their ideology, the legal status, or their usefulness. The test is not theology. The test is the response. Spirituality that cannot hear holiness in the voice of a stranger has stopped listening. It has mistaken certainty for faith and comfort for truth. Unity teaches us that divine appears wherever life appears. The stranger is not a threat to harmony. The stranger often reveals where harmony has already been broken. You may remember the familiar story of the wounded traveler left on the side of the road. People passing by, people of wealth, people of status, people with reason to keep moving, people with an urgency. But then that one person, there's that one person that stops, somebody completely unexpected, someone outside of that accepted circle. That person hears that dissonance in that harmony and refuses to ignore that dissonance. The power of the story is not heroism, it's attentiveness. Compassion responds because it listens. Love acts because it hears suffering as its own and refuses to outsource responsibility. Unity teaches that divine love moves. It does not theorize. It does not delay. It does not hide behind good intention. It responds. Peace without justice is fragile, like a harmony built on missing notes. Justice without compassion becomes noise. True peace requires both structure and care. Restoration, not humiliation, is the goal of any mature justice. Anything less may feel satisfying, but it will never be healing. Now we walk carefully along that thin line between church and state. Some of you may know that I'm very passionate about that. Spiritual communities are not here to dictate policy, and governments are not here to define meaning. But there's an overlap that cannot be ignored. It's called conscience. Faith does not tell us what political position to hold. Faith shapes how we listen, how we speak, and how we respond when dignity is at stake. Amen. Spiritual wisdom conducts values, not outcomes. But values that never touch the real world are not values, they are decorations. When public systems protect dignity, conscience recognizes harmony. When systems dehumanize, exclude, or discard consciousness hears dissonance. Speaking from consciousness is not partisanship. Remaining silent in the face of dehumanization is not neutrality. Quote from survivor Eli Wiesel comes to mind. Neutrality helps the oppressor, never the victim. Silence encourages the tormentor, never the tormented. When our lives are reviewed, the questions will be simple. Did we listen when suffering entered the room? Did we respond when harmony was broken? Did we conduct peace when fear, convenience, and comfort tempted us to look away? If history remembers us, may it say that we learned how to listen to the wounded, to the stranger, to one another. May it say we did not confuse control with leadership, silence with peace, or certainty with wisdom. May it say we conducted peace with courage, humility, and care. May our lives become places where harmony is possible. May our leadership sound like compassion. May our peace be practiced, disciplined, and shared. So I invite you today to ask yourself, not rhetorically, but honestly, are you a conductor of peace? Thank you.